Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Purpose Tuned podcast. The goal of my show is to create valuable content to broaden your knowledge, inspire you to act, and get you in the right mindset so you can apply it in your own life to drive impact, generate meaning, and achieve your purpose. Now, today's episode guest is Clay Smeltzer. Clay is the founder of the Purpose Infused Brotherhood, which helps driven men become the best version of themselves by building, battling, and bonding together. Getting men initiated into a family is where it belongs. Clay was 35 years old and living by what the world and everyone else told him what he should be. He was a responsible man, yet was filled with worry, anxiety, anger, stress, negative, shame, fear, and the list goes on. And until then, he has been developing this program that we all would want to hear more about. So Clay, thank you so much for joining me today. Let's check in. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me here, Kong. And, it's awesome what you're doing with the Purpose Tuned podcast. And I love talking about purpose. So we're going to have a purposeful and powerful discussion here today. So to help not only us, learn and get better, but also help any of the listeners learn and get better as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to just dive in. What is purpose? What does it mean to you? How does it show up?
A lot of times, like purpose for me, let's take a transition through my life. Purpose for me was chasing the major leagues and doing that and walking into the stadium for the very first time, seeing all the fans and everything like that and all that. That was purpose to me when I was younger. Purpose to me after that, I didn't know what it was, and by what society told me it was purpose was what I did. And I found out as I went on through life, that's not even close to what purpose is. Purpose isn't what you do, it's who you are. And when I got to 35, like you were talking about, I felt shame, I felt fear, I felt anger, I felt, I think I said shame, but I'm going to say it again. I felt shame. It got to that point where I wasn't willing to do for myself what I needed to do for myself. Therefore, it all stayed inside and all of a sudden it blew up, internally. If you looked at my life on the outside looking in, it looked great. But internally, I was struggling. Why? Because I was being what I said, that responsible man. I was providing, protecting for my family. I was going to work. I was doing what I needed to do. I was paying the bills, having a great family, having a great career as a teacher and educator. But externally, I was focused on everybody else, and internally, I was not focused on myself at all. So therefore, what do we think is going to happen? When we don't take care of ourselves, it eventually is going to crumble at some point in time. And that's kind of what it did. And, that's where purpose came into my life and really was like, dude, what are you here on this earth for? Because at 35, I'm 40 now, but at 35, I had a panic attack over a TV show. And I'm like, dude, something needs to change. Like, this isn't okay. And feeling anxiety all day, feeling like, your value is low, even though you do great things, your value is still low. All these different stories I kept telling myself. I'm like, something needed to change and it had to be me. And really, I think a lot of times purpose is like intention. I had none. Like I would just wake up and hit the ground running, full speed ahead, try to be the best and do the best. Be the best teacher I can for my students and everything like that. Be the best man for my husband, for my wife, for my family. Be the best husband. Be the best dad. Be the best this. I just hit the ground and ran. And I think that's what a lot of like type A personalities, leaders, successful people do. Is as soon as their feet hit the floor, they're just gone. They're doing and going and doing and going. But the problem is there wasn't any tension behind it. So I still felt empty inside. And that's kind of really where I had to dive into who I was. Because your purpose isn't what you do. So people were like, hey, Kong, who are you? And you'd be like, this is what I did. For me, it was like, Clay, who are you? I'm like, I'm a teacher. Dude, that's like, what's your purpose? To be a great teacher. Okay, well, what's that mean? I'm like, I don't know. Like, or, to be a great dad. What's that? I don't know what that means. Like, I had no intention behind what I was doing every day. So what I had to do is I had to take that serious. And it took me about 6 months of really diving in, going in, reading, getting around people, talking with people, having conversations, reading some more, listening to a whole bunch of stuff to go through a process to where I could identify exactly who Clay Smeltzer was. Once I knew that, which is my purpose, and to me, this comes down to 2 or 3 attributes in everybody's life. You operate in your purpose is 2 to 3 attributes. It's not what you do, it's who you are. And when you look back at your life from now till you were born, in every great time in your life where you felt like you were in the zone, those 2 to 3 attributes you were filling every single day. When your life isn't in, when you're not in the zone, you're kind of like, the baseball looks like a P and you're trying to hit that. And you're like, I don't even know what to look for. In those areas of your life and times in your life, your purpose was not, you were maybe operating on one of those two to three aspects or none of them. And what we had to do is, again, realize, who am I? So I can align my life to what that is. And for me, who is Clay Smeltzer? I'm somebody who my 2 to 3 my 3 attributes are: own your shit, love your story, and live with purpose. Like, that's mine. But I had to go do the work to find that out. And when I look back at my life, and every instance where my life, I was in the zone, I was doing it, I was killing it, even chasing the major leagues, I was owning my shit, loving my story, and living with purpose there. Why? Because I was building teams of people. And I was helping, not only taking ownership of my life, but helping other guys on my team take ownership. Loving my story. I created the story behind who we were as a team. Like, this is what we do. We go out, we fucking house people. Sorry if I can't drop it up. But so I get excited about that. But
I see you're passionate about it. So that's great.
We go after it. We get it. Like we're going to go do this, whether we're the best out on the field that day or not, we're going to make sure whether we win or not, you're going to know we were here. And that was our goal. We built that story. We loved that story. We kept that. And then live with purpose is really just doing exactly what I knew I was supposed to do in the moment I was supposed to do it, and just taking action on that. And you said in there, inspire you to act. That's what one of your goals of the podcast is. And that's what I realized, those 3 things I always did when I was in the zone. I did all 3 of those things, but the worst times of my life, none of those were there. So it's like looking back at a pattern, but I had to do the work to do that. So for purpose isn't what you do, it's who you are. And then you take who you are and align it to the life that you actually really want to live. My life's very simple. I do those 3 things. That's it.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry, what are they again? And can you elaborate on each one a little bit?
Own your shit, which means you need to own every single thing in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Colin, I am, every listener that's listening to this, you are exactly where you are in your life because of the choices you have made. Now, I get a lot of this, a lot of times like, Clay, you don't understand. I'm like, you're right. I don't understand, because it's not my story. It's yours. And you need to understand yours. I need to understand mine. And that's where it's like, I don't have to understand your story. I just have to help you understand that you need to understand your own story, and that you got there because of choices you made. Just like I'm divorced twice, married 3 times. We have a blended family of 3 and 3 different parents. Like, the reason why I'm in that situation, I deal with 2 exes and have to coordinate all that stuff, is because I chose to be in relationships with those 2 people and have kids with them. Mm-hmm. That's what, no matter what comes along with that divorce stuff, and it can get pretty nasty in there for guys. It doesn't matter, because I made the choice to have a relationship and have kids with them. So ultimately it comes back to me. So I had to take extreme ownership of myself. Love your story. I had to love it. Because there's parts of my story I'm like, dude, that sucks. I hated that part of me, part of who I was, and part of my story. Well, the problem is if I hate myself, how am I going to be best? How am I going to be the best version of myself if I hate part of myself? It's not going to work. And then, live with purpose is really understand who I am, so I can help other people, not only myself do it, but expand out to other people and help them do it too. So that's really the breakdown of my purpose, and it's help other people to be purposeful as well.
Mm-hmm. So with those elements, do you apply them in your program, or tell us a little bit more about the program that you've developed with the Purpose Infused Brotherhood?
Absolutely. We use all of that. Like, my whole goal is to help every man in the Purpose Infused Brotherhood own their shit, love their story, and live with purpose. That's it. And how do we do that? Well, we build, battle, and bond together. That's how we do that. And we have an 8-week initiation process. And we call that the Phoenix cycle. And what that does is, as you go through, like, you've probably gone through them, I've gone through them, everybody's listening here, we've gone through a Phoenix cycle. And what that is if you don't know about the Phoenix will burn itself down, and out of the ashes of its old self will create and give birth to a new, better version. And that's what we do. We go through that process, because when guys come to me, they're they're successful guys, they're driven guys, they're guys who, you know, in their field, in their career are kicking ass. When you look at their life outside and you look at it, it's not like they're depressed or anything. Like, it's not like they're in dire straits. It's successful men who are like, you know what? I feel like I'm at a good spot, but there's some things I don't like, but I want to be at a great spot. I want to be living with purpose. I want to feel like I'm waking up and being like intentional every single day and kicking butt. And I feel like I'm doing good, but I know I'm not doing great. And those are the guys that come and be like, hey man, listen, I feel like I'm being stressed out. I'm overwhelmed. I'm kind of run down a little bit. I'm kicking butt, but I still feel these things. And I want to have more alignment to myself. I want to have more purpose. I want to feel like what I'm doing is actually making a difference. And if I died today, like people would be like, dang, he lived a good life. Like he lived a purposeful life. Mm-hmm. And that's really where that kind of came from. So that 8-week process allows you to go through, burn down the old self, all the things that you don't want. It could be in a specific area of your life, or it could be all over, but you're going to burn down the old self. And in phase 2, that's rebuild or giving birth to the purpose infused man. Now, again, it's purpose infused because we're really looking to infuse your purpose into everything in your life. Because when you know your purpose and you operate on those things, your life gets clarity and it gets simple. We complicate the shit out of things, men. And you know what I mean? Like we got all this stuff. No. My life is very simple. I complicated everything. Why? Because I was trying to be that man for everybody else in my life instead of being that man for me. And when I'm that man for me and I just go live me, like, dude, that was like such a freeing experience. And that's what the initiation process of the Phoenix cycle does. It frees you from all those chains that you put on yourself, all that shadow that kept getting darker on yourself, all those things that were holding you back, and it frees you. And you're like, oh my God, like I don't have to worry if I get exposed. I'm just, dude, this is me. This is what you get. You like it, cool. You don't like it, I cool too. Like that's okay. You know,
so that the aspect of freedom is so important because we often are the most critical, we are very self-critical. And sometimes, we give these negative perceptions about ourselves when people aren't even thinking about us.
Yeah,
their own shit, right?
They got their own stuff to do. They ain't thinking about us.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we have to keep in mind that when we're out there living the world, we have to be mindful of our negative thoughts. We spend a lot of time thinking about things. We're in our mind 24/7, and we have to think positively. And the way, and
I'll give you an example of that, because before we go, maybe step onto a new thing, because when I was on this couch having a panic attack in my office watching Game of Thrones, like a TV show, my wife is sleeping on me. I had like this outer body experience, like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, and I'm thinking, sitting there, like, how pathetic does this dude look? Like, that was me. That's what I was thinking about myself. How pathetic does he look? How weak does he look? How frail does he look? How can he not provide and protect? If you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of your family? Like, to me, that was the shame. That was where the shame. So I didn't say anything to my wife for 2 weeks. 2 weeks went by. I lived in like my own anxiety hell. And the reason why I didn't say, and this goes back to what you were saying there, is I didn't tell her anything because I thought she was going to look at me like I was weak. I was less than a man, a husband, and a father. When I told her, she's like, why would I think that? And I'm like, I don't know. She's like, well, that's what you think about yourself, not what I think. And I'm like, dang. I'm like, because I just mirrored on to other people. She really wasn't thinking anything about it, just like you said. Mm-hmm. Everybody else isn't paying attention to you. They're paying attention to themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's what we got to take care of first. And just to your point there, like, we got to understand that we mirror a lot onto other people, which means we got to talk more. And when we talk more, we'll find out that the story we're telling ourselves wasn't true. And that's when we can actually do something about it, because we take it from the subconscious story we're telling us and we put it out front into our conscious. And when we put it into our conscious, we can actually then do something about it instead of just run the story with nothing changing.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, those are great points. And to continue on to what you were saying is that when we're out there, we have to be careful in terms of what we let in our minds, because if we don't, then that's going to interfere with our relationships with our spouse, with our siblings, our friends. And so we have to be careful in terms of what we let in, right? And even, when we're out talking to people, talking about things too. I mean, there are certain situations where I've caught myself saying, "Oh, I'm such I'm so dumb." It's like, no, I mean,
Yeah.
I have to
say it, Kong. Say what you actually say to yourself.
I have to like be careful in terms of what I say to myself, because there's a warrior inside in each of us that's listening to who we are. And each time when we say these things that, that contributes to negative thinking, that affects our mentality, or in the way in which we interact with people. And so it's important that, as you're coaching other men through this program, that there's also the element of how one views himself, right?
Correct. That's yeah. Go ahead.
Can you speak about the element of emotional intelligence and awareness, and if you do any of that in your program to give men to be more self-aware of who they are?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it all is. And like, yes, I'm the coach, but I'm never going to sit here and tell you who to be. Like, I can't do that, because why? It's not my life. I don't get an opportunity. I don't tell people who to be, because it's your life. It's not mine. But what I do is I have a process, and with the 8-week initiation program and the brotherhood, we have 2 elements that allows you to break that down. I'll walk through with you. I'll walk side by side with you through that 8-week process to find out who you really are. I'll do that and help you emerge as this new purposeful man. But I can't tell you who that is. Like, that's not me. And I don't want to do that, because if I tell everybody who to be, and I think that's what separates or the Purpose Infused Brotherhood from a lot of the programs, because they have, well, do this, do this, do this, do this. And it's like, we don't really do that. I have an 8-week process to go through this stuff, but it's really a process about you. You're doing the work. You're going deep. You're dealing with the shit that you should have dealt with a long time ago. You're going through that process. I'm here to help walk you through that. And why? Because I've been through it, and I know it sucks. Like, that 8-week process, part of it sucks. Like, it's not fun. And how do I know that? Because I did it. I just didn't make something from reading a whole bunch of books and stuff like that. Like, I actually went and did it. And because I did it, and the reason why Purpose Infused Brotherhood exists is because when I did it, other people saw it and said, "Clay, can you help me?" And I'm like, sure, I don't know what I'm going to do, but let's help it. And it's evolved from that into the Purpose Infused Brotherhood. Now it's evolved into the new initiation program, because we didn't have that before. I do one-on-one coaching too, the Purpose Revealer program, and that's revealing your purpose and what to do. Like, it took me 6 months to define who I was. Now I give you an 8-week process to start that and to really dive into some of those things, where some elements you can pick out of there. But it's really a process that you go through to really own you. I don't tell you who to be. No other brother tells you who to be. But here's what we expect in a brotherhood, is that you would be exactly who you were meant to be. That's what we expect. And to do the work to find that and then live that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to help you stay accountable to yourself. Because there's another one, like, I'm going to hold you accountable. I ain't holding nobody accountable. Because guess what? It ain't my job. Like, that's not what I'm here for. And I can't.
So in other words, what you're saying is that people have to want to do the work to come to you.
Yeah.
And they have to own it.
Yeah.
Right? One of the elements you mentioned was crap, right? So you have to ensure that people who come through this, they are willing and able to, and that they have the time and resources to, of course, be engaged. And so so I guess this is great, and I love it. I think we need more of this in the world, people helping, particularly programs specifically helping men to grow themselves and connect with one another, so that there's a space for them.
Correct.
Because there's a lot of negativity in the world, men not living up to their potential. When I say men, I'm not talking about women, I'm talking about men as in the gender. men not living
Yep.
up to their potential in their relationships as a husband, as a brother, an uncle, as what society, needs. And so having a program such as the one that you just outlined, it really gives men the space to really dig deep into their internal workings and
Right.
get rid of those chains, as you said, to really then be transformed into someone that they can, it could be completely different, that they
Yeah.
authentically connect with, to then contribute to society. And so all of this is great. And my next question to you is, what really inspired you to do this work? I mean, I know you have some personal ties to this. I mean, you yourself have been through this this amazing transformation to be the man that you are today. And I'm curious if there is something more deep in terms of why you continue to do the work that you're doing. I mean, for some people, right, they go through your situation. They're like, okay, so I've transformed to be the person I am today, and I'm living purposefully and authentically, and that's it. But you, on the other hand, you take, not only matters into your own hands and give yourself accountability, you're also helping other men. So you're taking an additional step by helping men to do this work. And you're essentially, so, as the old quote says, you're a change agent, right? You're looking at things, and you're looking at ways how you can create to make this a better place. So what inspires you to continue doing this work?
I think I'm a natural teacher. And I mean, that's why I got into teaching. That's why I love coaching. I coached high school baseball for 5 years, as well as played for a long, long time. And when I look at all of those different things, it's about helping other people, not only yourself, but helping other people excel. When I go back, own yourself, love your story, live with purpose. And I go back to my playing days. Owning myself was, I would be the first one on the field, last one off. So I had to be, I was the example. I would outwork anybody, doesn't matter. But I also help other people outwork anybody, and it wasn't just about me, it was about our team. And that's where love your story comes into play, is because there I was a leader to create that story of who are we? Like, what do we do on this field? It didn't matter if it was football or baseball. It was like when we left, when either you left or we left, you're going to make sure we made sure you knew we were here. It didn't matter if we won. It didn't matter if we lost. It mattered that you knew we were here, that we showed up to play and we gave it everything we had. And if we left it all in the field every single day, every single time, every single practice, every single game, then that means we did what we were meant to do. And that is living with purpose. So when I look back, it encapsulated all of those things, but it got to a point, where did the brotherhood come from? Because that's teaching too, just like in education. I teach kids, I teach math, but I teach them life, and then I teach them math. So you're going to get a whole bunch of life stuff out of me. How does your brain work? How do you take in information? How do you learn? Because if you don't know how you take in information, how your brain works, and how you learn, you can't take in information and utilize it correctly. So that's what I teach first. And then I teach us the math stuff. And then when I look at coaching, it's the same aspect. It's me teaching. It's in a space of teaching to help other people be the best version of themselves. And that's what I love doing. I love helping myself do that. And I love helping other people do that. And that's really the big part. It's been a part of my life throughout my whole entire life. But then the other aspects of inspiration, why I continue, because I don't want guys I didn't have to get to the place I got to at 35. I didn't have to be there. But I put myself there because I wasn't willing to do what I already knew I probably should have done, which is talk, reach out, have conversations with other men than I needed to. But there's lots of times where I did want to talk about that stuff with my buddies, and they're like, looked at me like, dude, we don't do that. Like, we don't talk about that stuff here. Like, whoa, hold on a second. You're talking about feelings, man. You're talking about being stressed out. Whoa. We just shove it back and we don't deal with it, man. That's what we're supposed to do, And I'm like, well, that doesn't work for me, And so because I got the reaction, I just didn't do it. Then I did shove it back. I did what guys told, my dad's generation, sorry for them, but my dad's generation is to say, shove it back, just deal with it, gut it out, man up, and just keep going. and it's like, well, sometimes that works, but a lot of times that doesn't work. And I tried to be the lone wolf, and that's the lesson. You will continue to get the lesson till you learn the lesson. And the lesson I got was you can't do it alone. And I kept getting it because I kept trying to do it alone, because I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Like, these guys don't want to, I'm going to do it by myself. I'm just going to go do. And the problem with that is I didn't have other guys around me to get their perspective, to see what's different, to see what's new, to see how I can do that. And that's what the brotherhood. Now we have 2 groups going on across the United States, up in North America and Canada. But on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, that's my time. That's my time to grow. Like, sure, I planned out like, hey, here's what we're going to talk about. I kind of run it. Hey, what's wins for the weeks? Any pressing issues, and then get into the topic for the week and stuff. But that's my time to be better. That's my time to learn. That's my time to grow. That's my time to say, hey, who is Clay Smeltzer? And am I really living to owning myself, loving my story, living with purpose? Am I really doing that? And those guys there are there to help me hold myself accountable for it. Like, because I said I was going to do this. And then there's times I've been called out. There's times I've called other people, and it's great. And that's what it should be. And it's not called out like, oh, you're in trouble. No, it's like, hey, Clay, like, you said you were going to do this. Are you still doing it? And I'm like, shit, I'm not. Like, I'm kind of doing it, but I'm not really doing it. And that's the cool thing. And it's not harsh. It's in love, man. We get off the brotherhood and we're like, dude, all right, guys, I'll see you next week. Love you guys. And some people might think that's weird. They're like, dude, you're telling other guys that you love them. I'm like, yeah. Because I do. It's called a brotherhood and not just my buddies. It's different.
Right. Yeah. I mean, well, you look in the military, right? And you compare the environment to the corporate world. In the military, there's such a strong bond between these men, right? Because there has to be, because when you're out in the battlefield, you rely on your buddy to save you. It's a life and death situation, right? And so there has to be that strong bond. And then when these military personnel, when they retire from the military and they step out into the corporate world, or to the, into society, they're like, what the heck is going on? Like, why are we not having types of environment where, we're bonding together, where there's a strong sense of connection. And, Simon Sinek, there was a powerful quote that he mentioned. He's on this, he's one of those purposeful leader in this space, purposeful guru that states that in the military we give medals to people who risk their lives to save others, and in corporate America we give medals to those who take advantage of their teams and fire them. And it's just the wrong type of leadership. And so to your point about saying that, you're a guy and you're telling other guys that you love them because of who they are, it's humanity. That is part of being what human is. And society has it backwards, where we teach men that, we still continue to do so, teach men that, we're supposed to be macho, we're supposed to be the man of the house. And I certainly grew up with this. I mean, my dad was very macho. And so it was just very difficult to be in an environment where you're not supposed to show your emotions, and showing emotions is a sign of weakness, when in fact it's courage. It's the opposite.
Oh God. Yeah.
Brene Brown. I don't know.
She's great. Yeah, she's awesome.
About the power of vulnerability, and how, and that actually, in fact, the word, courage, or the Greek word "courage," which means courage. And so, we have to step out and really be that, that courageous being that we're meant to be, and not live this shelter,
correct,
and be defined by what other people think that we should be. And so it takes a lot of courage on your part to, step up the plate and say, look, I mean, I may be the only one that's experiencing this right now. Talk about my emotions, and guys are like, you're weird, but I'm going to create something. I'm going to create a community.
I can create something.
I'm going to be the change agent. I'm going to be the one that's leading the way, paving the path for men to follow me, because we need to have We need to create a world, a
Yeah.
better world, and the old
Yeah.
ways of thinking is just not going to,
Not, yeah.
for men. So I want to
They
really,
got to change.
right.
And that's it's just like, look at mental health in men. Look at suicides in men. I mean, it's crazy. Like, why? Because we don't talk. We don't say stuff, or we're like, dude, I played the tough guy. Like, that's who I played. I was Mr. Positivity, Mr. Macho Man. Like, nah, God, I can handle it all myself. But the problem is inside, internally, just like we were talking about before, is I beat the crap out of myself. I was my worst enemy. Like, I just said the nastiest stuff. I'm a swearer too. You probably already know that, but like, there's a lot of swear words and F-bombs going on about who I was. How do you think that made me feel about myself? Like, bad. You know what I mean? I know there's a lot of guys like me who say the same stuff. Like, I'm not the only one who talks that bad about herself, but we'll play the tough guy, the macho guy thing. You'd be like, like, I'll go get it. I can handle it by myself. I got it all. I don't need anybody else. That's wrong. I tried that a lot of times. I'm just going to tell you, that's wrong. I'm still masculine. I'm still tough. I'm still all those different things. I'm still strong. The problem I had before is I was trying to be those things. It was fake as crap doing it, because I was trying to be strong and Mr. Positivity, when inside it was totally opposite. And the more I tried to, how do I want to say it? I want to go back to the emotion thing. That's what I'm trying to get at. And when I tried to be the tough guy, it was me being a coward because I didn't, it was me being a coward and insecure because I didn't want to go to the feelings I knew were there. And I just pushed him into my shadow, and I just kept him there. And then I locked him up there, and then I tried to kick him out of there. And the more I tried to get rid of these feelings that I was feeling either about myself or what was going on in my life, the more they came up. The more I tried to kick it out, the more it fought back. And then when I did the work, like Brene Brown's work, Dark Side of the Light Chasers by Debbie Ford, another amazing book. I recommend to everybody dealing with the shadow. Until I went into that space I didn't want to go, I was never going to reveal my purpose. And we got to understand, like, while we're out looking for our purpose is also out looking for us, but it's inside of us. It's not on the outside. Nothing external is going to tell you what your purpose is. It's all inside. And then I wasn't going to find it until I went and dealt with the stuff in my shadow that I didn't want to deal with. When I went to the feelings, I would get teary eyed at movies and songs. Well, I'd hold that in. Why? For what reason? Like, it's just stupid. You know what I mean? Like, I get emotional at the why, because it touches a part of my heart. Like, and then I was trying to kick that out, that touched my heart. And when a song that is awesome is I don't know if you listen to Macklemore at all, but
Yeah.
Macklemore's Excavate, dude, just rips. Dude, if you actually listen to the words of that, I recommend every listener to go listen to that. It will rip your freaking heart out. And it's awesome but like, before I was so afraid to show emotion on that because like it was a sign of weakness. That's what I was taught. Mm-hmm. But the problem is when I released that energy on that, man, it felt so good. Like, it was a freeing thing because the words not only reminded me of my life, they reminded me of that I have the choice in the future to write my own story. Like, that's awesome. Like, we can excavate all those things out of there and we can write a better life for ourselves. It doesn't have to be what we already had, because we already had that. And we're like, I don't like that. So let's do it something different, and it gave such a freeing thing. But until I released that emotion, I would feel that emotion and kick it to the side, and I'd just be mad. Mm-hmm. Well, what was that going to get me? Nothing. Just mad at myself, saying, oh, you're a wuss because you're crying or got emotional. Love movies. Like, dude, I'll be the first one to cry in a movie, especially if it has anything to do with kids, like in like a touching thing like that. And like, it's like, that's okay, because what's one of my big key attributes? Love. And I'm showing that, and that's okay to do. But I was trying to be this tough guy where all the time, the more tougher I got, the more insecure I was. Strength is actually going into the places you don't really want to go. So I was an emotional reactor. That's what I was. And an emotional reactor.
You said strength is what?
The strength is going into the shadow, to the places we don't want to go, not acting like it doesn't exist. Yeah. Weakness is acting like it doesn't exist. And in order for me to be the man I am today, not only for myself, but for my wife, for my kids, for my career, for the brotherhood, for my community, I had to go to the place I didn't want to go. And that's the scariest thing out there. Like, it was scary to say, hey, I hate this about myself, but it was the truth. Like, I don't hate it about it myself anymore, but I did then, but that was scary. Or to say, hey, I acted like this. I did this. This is who I am. That's like, whoa, like, that's a big thing to sit there and be like, yo, I got to own the fact that if my button gets pushed, I'm an angry dude. Like, I had to own it. Like, I didn't want to, because sometimes I was a jerk. I didn't hurt anybody physically or anything, but the things that came out of my mouth, that wasn't a good thing, and that's where it's like, I had to own all those things, because what it means is, like, I had to own all the stuff I look back at my life and be like, I don't like. And a lot of times we don't want to do that. Just like Instagram, you just want to put the good stuff on. Well, too bad. Sorry. Your life isn't filled with just good. It's filled with good and bad. And in between, like, you got to own it all, because guess what? You chose it.
I think eventually I can see, speaking of Instagram, I can see how in the future, how we will create an app that will be more authentic for people to, to really be themselves and show the good and the bad, and not just the glitz and glamour, the Instagram.
Yeah.
And, it's, I love I just can't, I really do want to acknowledge your work in this, because you're doing such a powerful, you're creating such a
I appreciate that.
environment space for men to really transform and really be the essence of who they should be. And was it Les Brown? He's one of the personal development gurus, and he said, the richest place on earth is not where you find diamonds and gold, it's where the graveyard is. The reason why is because people, when they die with them, they take their dreams and hopes and aspirations.
Oof, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and your work is really to allow people to not take their hopes and dreams and aspirations to the graveyard, to really step into their purpose being and shine light into this world, so that we can change the world to be a better world for everyone. And it starts with us, men. It starts with us. And so again, this is
absolutely
work. And so if there's ever days where you feel like you need a little bit of inspiration, feel free to reach out to me too, because I'd love to to get into this work and help a brother out wherever.
Absolutely.
Because that's one of the reasons why I'm doing my podcast, is to inspire people.
That's it. I was just gonna say that you're doing that work, and it's important. You know what I mean? It's important. And here's what, and go back to the question you asked me, is what inspired you to keep doing what you're doing? What you just said, like, I don't, Ed Milet, love Ed Milet. I forget what his book is called, but you read it. Ed Milet, read the book. Great. He talks in there about when he gets to the end of his days and he dies, he's going to go up to heaven, and outside of the gates, and that's his beliefs, outside of the gates, there's going to be a man standing there it's who he was meant to be. And Ed says, you know what? I want to be able to recognize that. I want to walk up to that man and he greet me and be like, hey, you know what? Like, I don't know who you are. Like, I want to know who that man is. To me, when I read that, that was powerful. And I'm spiritual. I believe that there's something else out there, but I'm not religious. But man, that really hit me, because I'm like, man, there is a best version of myself that I was meant to be. Like, it's in me, and it's my job to be able to let him out. And up to 35, I knew he wasn't out. I didn't know who he was. Like, if I died at 35 and I went to heaven and that happened, I wouldn't know who that guy was. I'd be like, yo, who are you, dude? But if I go now, I know I've done every single thing that I can in my life to not only know who that guy is, and this is what's different for me and Ed, is I want to go and I want to meet that guy, but I don't want to just him say, hey, like, I recognize it. I want to embrace him. I want to put my arms around him. I want him to put his arms around me. I want to say, I love you. I want him to say, I love you. I want him to take me by the shoulders and push me back just a little bit, look in my eyes and be like, thank you for being who you were meant to be and going after that. Welcome home, wherever home is. I don't know, but I know I want that to happen. I know that's it. And I just don't want to end my life. Like, there's so many people that didn't wake up today. I might not wake up tomorrow. You might not wake up. Any listeners, we might not get tomorrow. And if tomorrow doesn't come for me, I want to know today I left it all in the field. And this is one of the greatest teachings my dad ever gave me is he was a high school baseball and football coach. And he lined us at the beginning of the season. He lined us all up on the line. And all the players stand right on the line before you walked on the field. He said, gentlemen, he goes, before you step across this line, you better make a decision. If you step across this line, you better leave it all on the field. And if you don't step across my line. And if you step across that line, that meant that you were going to give it your all, not only for you, but for every man standing here with you. And I'm like, cool. And like, I never got the impact of that until I realized my purpose is own myself, love my story, and live with purpose. Because every morning I wake up and I'm like, man, it's like, I got another day to do something. And before my feet hit the ground, I think of my dad, and that's my line every day. And when my foot hits the ground, the little part that hits that ground first, my day is boom. Today I give it all. And every single day, that's how I wake up. And how do I do that? I do it simplistically. I do things to own myself, love my story, live with purpose, and help other people do that. I don't make my life complicated. I do those three things over and over and over again, every day, all day. And when I do that, at the end of the night, I can lay my head down and be like, you know what? I left it all on the field today. And if I don't wake up tomorrow, that man that's standing outside that gate's waiting for me, I'm going to be able to give him a big old hug and tell him I love him. And he's going to do the same for me. And, even as I'm saying this now, I'm picturing it. My eyes are a little teary, they're a little red.
Yeah.
But that's important to me. But the old Clay 5 years ago, 6 years ago, never would have done that. Never would have thought about that. I'm like, that's stupid frou crap. Just like meditation. Let's go hug a tree. Well, hey, I just do meditation. It works, breath work, this, talking about how I feel, dude, it works. Like, we got to stop playing. We don't live in a day where back in history, 1900 before, we don't live in that day anymore. We don't live in a days where we just wake up and men are here to survive and kill things so that us and our family doesn't die. We don't live in that anymore. So we got to change and evolve, and we haven't yet, but we're figuring it out. And that's the cool thing about it is we have a lot of men around the world. And that's one of the things that I'm here for, is to help men just be exactly who they were meant to be, so that they don't get the what ifs at the end of their life. So I don't want you to live like that, because I did, and it sucked. That's why 35, that's why I'm here. I'm like, I don't want guys to go through what I went through, because you don't have to. I have a system that allows you to be exactly who you are. It gives you a blueprint of 8 weeks to burn your old self down, be a purpose infused man. And then phase 3 is get initiated into a brotherhood where there's other men like that. You have an opportunity to interact with them every single week, and then get together throughout the year, do things, have those conversations. I mean, it's amazing. Like the other week, I was hitting some peaks and valleys every day, like up, down, up, down. That was probably when we talked first. I was in that. One of my brothers said something. I'm like, dude, I needed to hear that. I was like, I'm the coach, like I lead, but dude, I needed to hear that. I need to hear what Toby said on Tuesday, and I need to hear what LA said on Wednesday. Why? Because it changed my perspective. Now it's up. I'm doing this, where I was like this. I was up and down, peaks and valleys. But because two guys were willing to own themselves, love their story, and live with their purpose and share it with us in the brotherhood, that now changed my perspective. That changed me. And I was like, that's what it's about.
So your program, I'm interested. What's the process like to be admitted to program? Do you do do you allow people to shadow the program first before joining? Like, what's the requirements? The process for
a lot of times is, people join from Facebook, LinkedIn, and stuff like that. People that live in my community. I live in York, Pennsylvania. A lot of times, I get people there and stuff like that, referrals, that they just want to check it out and see what's up. So what we do is we just have a 10, 15 minute conversation. I walk them through the program. I let them know, hey, here's what you get. Here's the value out of it. Here's what other people have gone through, why this process is in place, what it's going to help you do. And that it also gives you an 8-step process every time that you want to go through another Phoenix cycle. It's not like this is just once and done. This is a process you can use for your whole entire life. You've already done a Phoenix cycle structure. You've already burnt the old self down. Kong, you've burnt the old self down a lot of times, and rebuild it to be a new purpose. And every listener here has done that too. I just give you a very systematic 8-step process that you can walk through that's very personal for you in order to say, hey, what are those things I want to burn down? Who is it that I really want to be? And then phase 3 is how do I step into being that person? And it just gives you that 8-week process. In case when you use it later in the future, it's not 8 weeks, it's just 8 steps. And then, so I give you that, but then you also have access to the brotherhood that they're guys that have gone through the stuff. We've had the conversations, we've done a ton of those. And even though the initiation process is new, a lot of the things in there we've done, and we've had those hard conversations where guys are like, yeah, dude, like, this is how I feel. This is what I'm going through. Sometimes it's tough to listen to it. Sometimes it's great, but knowing like some of our brothers, what they've gone through, and their words are, if I didn't have you guys, it'd be a totally different story. And it's like, dude, that like, warms my heart. And one of the biggest thing that warms my heart every week, it's like, we come back home, we do wins for the week. And I love it that like guys are like, hey, what's your win for the week? Well, the conversation we had last week, like somebody was going through this at work and I had a conversation with them. I'm like, listen, we were talking about this here. And I was like, I was able to help them out. Or like, my kids were going through this and you talked about it. And I help myself, my kids be a better person. I help me be a better father. And it's like those conversations that we have in there when we use them is amazing, because that's the whole thing. Is I love the phrase by, I think it was Kofi Jackson. He's a country singer. Blossom where you're planted. I love it because that's all I want men to do. Blossom where they're planted to exactly who they are and align that to the life that they actually want to live.
Wow, that's powerful. So is this brotherhood, is this a community? Do they meet on a regular basis? Like, what's the format?
Yeah. Once you, in the 8-week process, the first 2 weeks are on your own. That's individual, because to burn down your old self, you don't want to do that with other people. I walk with you during those 2 weeks, but in week 3, when you start to rebuild that new purpose infused man, in phase 2, week 3, you get to join the brotherhood and kind of see where your home base is. We have 2 groups that run every single week. And again, each Tuesday night we get together. Each Wednesday night we get together. Now there's 2 different groups there. So you kind of find your home group. Some guy, I run it 2 days because some guys Tuesday works better. Some guys Wednesday works better, but we do 8 to 9:30 or 8 to 9:15 Eastern Standard Time. And it's just a place. We got guys all over the country. What's that?
PM?
Yeah, PM. Yep, PM. Yeah, so we got guys that come all across the country, stuff like that, even up into Canada. And, we get together every single week. They have their home base, but if they can't make it Tuesday, they jump in on Wednesday's group. If they can't make it Wednesday, they jump in on Tuesday. But each week, they have their home base, but they're looking at, hey, how can I participate, have these conversations? Because, again, we've gone through that process of saying that time is mine. Like, men do not give themselves enough time for themselves to grow, because again, we are willing to sacrifice ourselves for everyone else. And what I'm going to tell men is stop sacrificing everything for everybody else. And in order to be able to provide for everybody else, you need to do you first. Like, that's not selfish.
Right.
Like, you have to, I was in business before, and the guys always said, you have to be selfish in order to be selfless. And I'm like, all right, cool. Sounds like a good phrase. I'm like, I didn't get it because I was young and naive then. I was still like, nah, I'm doing it all by myself. I don't care. And it's like, now I get it, because in order for me to be able to be best for my wife, for my kids, for the brotherhood, for my students, for my community, I have to get me right first. If I don't put the oxygen mask on first, everybody else is dying too. Mm-hmm. Like, and I know that's used a lot, but that's the truth. It's just very simple facts that I got to do me first. Mm-hmm. And when I do that, then I have the opportunity to expand out to everybody else.
Yeah, totally. It's very much a journey, that you have to walk alone at first. And then once you're able to, establish yourself, a bit more, you can help others. Yeah. And you don't have to walk it alone. Right. You don't have to walk it alone.
Correct. Exactly. I didn't really. That's why it took longer. you can walk through with other men who've gone through it too. And
Right.
that's what I didn't know. I didn't know it was out there.
Mhm.
It was out there when I went through it, but I didn't know. And and I'll be really honest with you, I didn't want to find it. Like I didn't want to find it. I wanted to be a tough guy and do it on my own. So,
Well, they got to technology too, because
yeah.
technology helps us connect virtually from all over the world. And so, that's an important element to why we're able to do this type of work. You doing your program and me doing my
Mhm.
podcast. And so, I'm really appreciative of that resource. I mean, even in my surrounding areas where I live in San Diego, and the people I surround with, most of them I would consider, I mean, again, I don't know them as much, but most people that I stumble across, as neighbors or as acquaintances in my area, I would say don't tend to live out their purpose. And so
Mhm.
it sometimes can be lonely. Sometimes I feel like it's just
Yeah.
me. But then again, I'm also mindful, is it just me thinking that way? Or is it, you can't just assume,
Yeah.
because everybody's
Yeah.
different. So by allowing myself to step into this space
Mhm.
of vulnerability, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to authentically connect with people, like
Yeah.
ask them how they're doing, not about what I'm doing. I'm going to ask questions in a way that makes me express that I'm genuinely interested in their lives, whether they benefit me or not. It's to give room for them to think about what they're going through,
Mhm.
and allows me to connect with them if there's a connection. And so by continuing
Yeah.
to have that intention of connecting with people on a deeper level, I think that I could maybe somehow make an impact, in
Yeah.
addition to, of course, supporting folks like yourself who are in this space already, and also launching my podcast. And so
I would say not I could, you are. That's the wording I
what
would
did I say?
change.
What did I,
You
what was
said I could impact. I'm saying no, not I
right,
could,
yeah.
you are, or I
Right.
am. That's
Yeah, yes, to be intentional, and to be direct, and to be purposeful. Yes, those are the correct words to use. Even I myself, as a
absolutely.
purposeful being, as I consider myself to be, do have my internal workings to go through too. So it's always a journey. That's the fun part, is to just continue learning
Yes.
about who we are, and develop on those areas, and be a better person and a better man
Mhm.
to the world. So I know
Absolutely.
we're up on time, and I just have two last questions to ask. The next question
All
would be,
right.
what advice would you give to the folks listening to this?
I would give them the advice that do the work to own yourself, love your story, and live with purpose, because it's freeing. When you don't have to hide behind, hey, this is who I want to be for everybody else, and that facade, and you just be you, like that's it. Like you can just go through the world. It's so much nicer just going through the world, just being yourself. I teach, and a lot of kids are like, oh, like I'm like, I always tell my students, I'm like, dude, what's weird? What makes you weird is probably what's going to make you great. And just be it, just own it. You know what I mean? I'm weird as hell. I'm cool with that. And but
You're an awesome
that's
guy.
because thank you. But that's because like, I've lived too much of my life, and I don't want you to live that way too. And I know too many people live it as I want to be this for other people. Just be this for you. And when you can lead one, then you can lead many. And that one is you.
Wow, that's powerful. Wow, it just gave me goosebumps just hearing you say that. That's amazing. And where can people find you, should they want to connect with you through this podcast?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. They can just search up Purpose Infused Brotherhood. That's where you find me there. They can look up the Purpose Infused Brotherhood podcast as well. And they go to purposeinfusedbrotherhood.com. On there, on the link, I am the biggest question that guys come to me with or concerned is the work-life balance. I have my own ideas and thoughts about that, but what I do is I give a top 7 way, a free PDF and video training on the top 7 ways to get out of the work-life balance rut. And I go over 10 myths about work-life balance and then 7 strategies that you can implement right away to create some clarity and simplicity in your life on that work-life balance. So that's there on the website. It's just a great resource for you to have. It gets emailed right to you, and you have that for as long as you want to have it until you delete it. So just a great resource, because that's the biggest problem. We feel like we don't have the time to do enough as men, and that gives you some strategies and myths to help you overcome that story you're telling yourself, but also give you some strategies that you can actually implement right away that are easy and effective.
Great. Well, Clay, thank you so much for your time. And folks who are listening to this podcast episode, if you find Clay's work to be fascinating, please reach out to him directly and reference where you found him, which is on the Purpose Tune podcast. And again, I'm your host, Kang Shong. Thank you so much for listening.